All right. Hello and welcome everyone to Intuitively Tuned In. I'm your host, Kaileen Cox, and today I'm very excited to welcome the Pivot Process creator, inspirational speaker, author, and mindset transformational coach, Courtney Leckie. No, sorry,
That's okay. Zalucky.
Zalucky. I'm so sorry about that. We've
Do
just
not be sorry.
first names. So
Totally fine.
Courtney, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
I
you for having me. I'm excited.
Me too. I am very excited. So I just want to jump right in. We are talking about today what it means to live the dream. And I want to hear what that means to you.
I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about it because it's something that means so much to me. So, just to give you a quick little background of my story, my whole life up until the last 3 years was spent in complete anxiety. So, I was always the person from a very, very young age that was always looking for the bomb to drop. I was always thinking about the very worst case scenario. There was always the what if mindset happening. And I was even the person where, even if something good happened in my life, I felt like there had to be an exchange. So something had to be taken away. And I always tried to be a really positive person, but I never did anything on the inside
Mm.
to change my inner landscape. I wasn't aware that I could change my inner landscape. For the longest time, I just had myself pegged as the anxious one. So no matter what came my way, it was always, well, that's just who I am. That's just the way that I was made. That was the way I was designed. And I'm just going to have to learn how to live with it, how to deal with it. And it is exhausting for anyone who has lived with anxiety, those fear-based thoughts, who have had full-blown panic attacks. It is so debilitating, and it really keeps you feeling very stuck and limited. And about 3 years ago, I truly believe that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And about 3 years ago, I just had this aha line in the sand moment. I spent the day, it was just the most amazing day. I was on a boat ride with a friend of mine, and it was just such an amazing day. And I remember going home that night and thinking to myself, something about this day is so different. I don't know what it is, but I can't pinpoint it. But just spending the day on the water all day and just in such great conversation. And I realized at the end of the day, I was overthinking it too much. I had really just experienced happiness and pure joy without attaching fear to it. And it
Ah,
was the first time that I think I had really allowed happiness in and just allowed it. I realized that from probably the trauma of growing up with my dad who struggled a lot with alcohol and drug addiction, and he was my hero when I was younger, when I was really little. And I think I watched my hero turn to my villain, and I think that there was always this fear that something was going to be taken away from me. And so to be able to just allow happiness, I am pretty competitive when it comes to myself, not with other people. And so I was really inspired to think, wow, I just went a whole day in complete joy. And I didn't take it to that place. I didn't go there. So if I can do that right now, and I can do it one time, I can do it again, and I can do it again, and I can do it again. And that moment inspired me to just really delve into how I could do that. How can I allow that happiness more on a daily basis and just start to feel better? And so I just found all the right books in my hands. I read The Universe Has Your Back by Gabby Bernstein. I read A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, which is based on the metaphysical text, A Course in Miracles. I read You're a Badass and Super Attractor. I mean, book after book after book. And I realized that the anxiety that I had labeled myself with was a label that I could completely change. It did not control me. It did not define me. It did not mean that that's who I had to stay. And so I really committed to this journey, which I now call my pivot, because a pivot is a turnaround. I grew up as a dancer, and I've always loved the show Friends. And when I think of Ross saying, pivot,
absolutely.
he would turn it around, right? Turn it so it can so it's more flexible, so it can move, so we can get it to do something differently than what it's doing. And so the last 3 years has all been about a really deep inner dive, a journey for me. And little by little and day by day and bit by bit, I have totally transmuted the fear. And it's now a place of, it feels lovely and it feels peaceful. And even when the fear comes in, I know what to do because now there are the tools and strategies. And I know that fear is not real. It's just an illusion and something that I've created based on my stories and the trauma that I've experienced, but I can do something about it. And so I truly now have gone from completely fearful into that could never happen to me to it's limitless, our possibilities. When we are in the energy of believing that something is possible and we're living from our heart space and we're living intuitively and we're in alignment with who we truly are, our spirit, our soul, and we trust in that divine source that's a part of all of us. I really believe that miracles are possible every single day. And these last 3 years have been filled with many miracles where now I know that it's not about if something can happen, it's just trusting and knowing that it will, and it will happen in the best possible way. And I really truly believe that we're here to live the dream and that we can all pivot. We can all change it. I know if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Absolutely. So in that, you talked about changing your inner landscape. Just in
Mm.
case anyone's out there, that's, is like, oh, that's a very interesting term. What does that mean? I mean, I'm assuming it's from that fear to love, but because
Yes,
I feel like that's one of your terms. So will you dive into that a little bit more?
absolutely. Thanks for asking. So when I think about the way I used to live, I lived in my headspace. So when I think internally, what was happening within me, there was this nagging voice of fear that was always coming from that place that I now realize was called my ego, which I've learned about is the part of us that is really there to protect us. But
Absolutely.
really, in trying to protect us, sometimes it creates more fear. I've learned to allow my ego to be more of my friend so that rather than the fear being in control of me, now it's the guide. Because now having awareness, I think awareness is so important. So when I think inner landscape, I think what is happening within us? Where are our thoughts coming from? Where are we living from? Are we living from our mind that often is like that barking dog?
Right.
Or the nagging roommate that doesn't leave us alone, that's always talking us down, that doesn't think that we're worthy enough or deserving enough or that we're not good enough. And the inner landscape for me is when I think of a beautiful landscape, something that is just peaceful and beautiful and serene, that can't be filled with dust and muck and filth. So the inner landscape is all about slowly kind of lifting the fog, clearing the dust, and really getting back to our heart space. So
Mm-hmm.
it's then being able to live instead of from our heads into living with our heart and truly believing that the things that just seem to make us come to life, the things that get us excited, the things that kind of whisper,
Mm-hmm.
that's the inner landscape that now guides me each and every day. And there's such a peace in that.
Absolutely. And I love that. So many times people are like, oh, death to the ego. But you're acknowledging that's part of being human, right? We
Yes.
have to have that ego and it keeps us alive. It's written in our cells. That's a big part of what I love to explore, right? We used
So
to be
yes,
afraid of that tiger so we would survive. Well, now we don't know the difference between getting a text message we don't like and that tiger. So it's so
sometimes I
important, yeah,
yes,
to give that
sometimes I
time.
actually talk to it.
Yep.
And and for me, it's all about doing different things to get different results. So when I first started doing certain things, like even meditating, things like that I had never done before, they've made such a difference. And so now when I have those moments where I feel like fear might be creeping in, I'll say, hey, I know that I call it my flip flop. My ego is flip flop and my heart is Molly Moonbeams.
Oh, love that.
Just because they have personalities. And
Right.
so sometimes if I'm by myself, I'll just say, okay, flip flop. I know that you're trying to help. I know that you're trying to have my back, but I've got this. I've got us. And I think of like a smaller version of myself. and just kind of saying, I want you to go do something else,
I
and
love
just let
that.
me take the lead here.
Yeah.
So
For me, my ego's name is Marley. Manifest
I
him,
love
he's my
that.
dog.
I love that. Marley, that's
Yeah.
great. That's
Yeah, he
great.
sits right by my feet when he knows it's time to work. So can help me be focused because it doesn't always have to be, run. It can be, okay,
No,
let's nap. Let's
exactly.
higher self be in charge here. So
Yeah.
you mentioned author. Can you share about your books?
So I am just had finished doing a collaborative piece with it's the art of connection,
Okay.
and it's entrepreneurs around the world. It's an international bestseller, and everyone contributes what their contribution is. So there's a whole page dedicated to pivot in
Awesome.
that book. And I'm in the process right now of writing my own book based on the pivot process.
Okay, very cool.
So
Is
as a
there Go ahead, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, as a contributing author, that was like my first way to get pivot out there, which is really
Absolutely.
exciting.
Yeah, that's a great way. Speaking of pivot, how can someone work with you on this process? How can they, of course, in the links, I'll have it all linked to your personal pages and everything, but what would it look like for someone to work with you on this
There's
transfer?
so many different ways, which is what I love about it. So just to share, pivot is an acronym. So every letter in pivot stands for the process, the system that we use to really transform and transmute all of that fear into more inner peace and happiness, love, joy. And I currently am offering a beta course, which I'm so excited about. And in that beta course, I'm going to make it 7 weeks. We actually get started September 19th. So the timing is really great.
Oh, yeah.
And week one, so everything will be self-led in terms of the online videos, the teaching videos. Week one will be a little bit more of a self-inventory to see where people are at within their headspace, where they are with their mindset, where they are within their awareness. And then this weeks 2 through 6 will be taking each letter of pivot and taking a deeper dive into what each of them means, and then giving some tools and strategies around them to start to do those daily small right actions. I think that's the great thing. It's never anything that we need to do that feels overwhelming or
Mhm.
an add-on. It's these little tweaks that we make daily, even in the way we think about something, or when we stop
Absolutely.
ourselves and do something different. And then week 7 would kind of be a recap. Because it's a beta, it will retail much higher, but I'm offering it for just $55 because I'm truly looking for women who would want to go through the journey to see how the beta impacts them, and then receive testimonials back, make any tweaks that I need to, and then really launch it as a
Right.
full online course. And then I also do one-on-one transformational and healing coaching with anyone who's just ready to do a more personal deep dive one-on-one with the pivot process. I'm ready to turn my life around. I want to live the dream. I want to live according to my heart's desire. I know I'm not here to struggle, and I'm just ready to go.
I absolutely love that. That's so fun. So this is great timing because that's starting very soon. So anyone
Yeah,
watching this right now, um, check it out, right? It's time. It's time.
it's
Definitely.
time.
And then if you're watching this a few years from now, it's working. So go check it out.
Yeah, it is definitely working. I'm putting that out there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive in a little bit to your intuitive message to the world. Do you want to share it?
Sure. So what I would say is that we are not defined by our life experiences, by our challenges. We are refined by them. We become refined by all of those moments in our life when we might be struggling, or we might feel that there are obstacles. But if we embrace those obstacles as detours leading us to the best evolved version of ourselves, and always knowing and being open to the fact that we are being guided, that
Mm.
there is this beautiful divine source that's there for us. And what I think, I grew up in a very strict religion. And for me, I have no judgment on any religion whatsoever, because what my pivot, I guess, has kind of been. is just knowing whether it's God, Jesus, the universe, spirit, Buddha, your angels, it's all really rooted in love. And so just to be open to that presence and to be open to the idea that we have help, that we don't have to do it alone, that that divine source, in whatever way it resonates with us, is going to meet us halfway if we invite it in. I realized I never invited it in. Even when I said I had faith, it didn't become a part of me. It wasn't within me. It was always external. So a huge pivot, and part of that's the O in pivot, is offering it up. And really, truly, like when you're at a store, right? There are things that are there, but unless you buy them, unless you get the product and use it, it's not going to be available to you in the way that it could be. And
Right.
so I think knowing that we have that kind of guidance and using that to say, I am being guided to my best version of myself, and I'm open to that. And all of these obstacles and challenges are refining me into the best possible version of who I am and why I'm here.
I absolutely love that. So my intuition is pointing back to the fact that you're a light worker and healer. Do you want
Yes.
to share what that means to you? And, because that's a big part of
Mm,
the one-on-one coaching with you, right?
yes. So I'm currently also an elementary school teacher, and I'm so grateful for what being in a classroom has taught me. I also, though, take my life experience being so ridden with anxiety and being so afraid all the time. And to think about, I'm 45 years old, and it's been 3 years. So in the grand scheme of things, to know that for a good 38 years of my life, it was constant fear in some way, shape, or form. And to know that in such a short amount of time, in 3 years, I've been able to completely pivot my life. I feel so inspired. I feel that it is my calling, that it is my purpose
Mm-hmm.
to share with as many people as possible that we can heal from the inside out, and that we can live a happy life. That's why we're here. We're not here to just struggle and then not be here anymore, that we all have this purpose. And I think when I really got to know myself at the heart space level, like, who is Courtney outside of the rules I was taught that I should believe in, or what society told me I should be thinking, I've really taken on the idea of, let's live a little bit more unconventionally in our thinking. Instead of defaulting to fear, let's default to love and peace. And let's practice radical self-acceptance.
Oh,
Because the
yes.
more we can do that, the more we take judgment out of ourselves, the more that we take judgment out of living in general, and the more collectively there's a paradigm shift that really helps the world to become a more peaceful place. And I truly believe that. Truly believe that.
I
And
completely agree.
I really do feel like it's why I'm here, because I just know if it works for one person, it can work for so many others.
Right. Because we're all connected. I love
Yes.
that. Is there anything more you want to touch on the radical self-love, self-acceptance?
Yes. I think it's so easy when we think about the way that we talk to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were to really be reflective of throughout the day, what are the words that I'm saying to myself? Am I talking myself up? Am I my biggest cheerleader? Do I talk to myself the way that I would talk to the person I love most in this world that's not me? Do I know myself? And do I honor the things that make me come to life and make time for them in my day? Do I make time for them in my life? As a mom, I used to feel so guilty. I wanted so badly to start a workout routine and being healthier and just start moving, because I felt kind of lethargic. I was just kind
Mm.
of lacking energy. And I remember thinking to myself, well, someday I'll have the time to do that. I'd feel kind of bad taking time out myself. And what I was doing was I was taking myself, and I was dedicated to one label of who I was, and one label only, rather
Right.
than kind of seeing myself almost like a wheel with spokes coming out, and so many different pieces of me that make me who I am. But I
Absolutely.
don't think growing up I ever took the time to really say, wow, I really love to be out in water. So I bought a kayak and now I go out and I take my journal and I journal on the water. And if my son is with his father for the weekend, I allow myself downtime. I allow myself to rest. And rather than sometimes do the things on the to-do list, I focus on the to-feel list. And I
Mhm.
make sure that the way I feel is in alignment with the things that I'm doing so that I'm staying true to me. And that kind of led to doing my Sunday sit downs, which I do live every Sunday on Facebook, and really being more in alignment with why I believe I'm here and what makes me happy. I think we feel guilty sometimes doing things that make us happy, but I think in doing those things, it allows us the space to be authentically and unapologetically who we are. And then if we practice that, that becomes a ripple effect for other people to say, you know what? Wow, that person is really happy. She's able to fit things in. She makes sure that she creates time for that. And then it allows other people to live with that radical self-acceptance. And then to
Absolutely.
start believing that we all have a purpose and that it doesn't matter how big or small that purpose is, but it's our purpose and
Right.
staying true to who we are.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And that, thought of everyday miracles, because
Mm,
I love to think that every moment can be a miracle, right? If we're coming from a space of love, like, why not?
100%.
There is
And
no, yeah.
I have found for me, just to share, I mean, I could write a book on the miracles that have just come about. I remember reading, it was The Universe Has Your Back. And
Hmm.
I remember Gabby Bernstein saying, if you're unsure about something, ask for a sign. Just ask for a sign and wait and see what happens. Well, like, I am in awe every day. In conversation, someone will say, like, I have a specific number, that's a sign. And in
Hmm.
conversation, that number will constantly come up and it's a random number. Or I'll see it on the back of a license plate, or and then I'll get sometimes these intuitive downloads, which is new for me. It's a totally new
Okay.
thing for me because it's not the way I used to think. And sometimes I'll say like it, just wait 4 days and you'll receive, the miracle will come. And then just recently, okay, I'm gonna wait 4 days and then a miracle came. Like a complete answer to a prayer without forcing it and just believing in it and just totally allowing it, flowing with it, and it came. I mean, any moment can be a miracle for sure. For
Absolutely.
sure.
I gotta hand it to your spirit team because them giving you a time frame must be nice.
Well, and it's funny because sometimes in learning, I'm still also learning to refine my own intuition in terms of those kind of messages that you get,
Hmm.
because you have to learn the difference between what's something I just want versus what's something. And so sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to trust it. That's
Right.
the T, that's the T in pivot. It's trusting. And so even if it didn't come in 4 days, there was still a peace in knowing everything's going to be okay no matter what.
Absolutely. I think right there is the perfect line, right? Everything's gonna be okay no matter what.
Everything's always okay no matter what. Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, Courtney, I thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a
You're so
wonderful
welcome.
conversation. Do you have a number of women that are going to be a part of this beta testing program? Do you wanna
I I am looking for 20. We've already had a bunch of signups, but it's really one of those courses that is so important to me and
Mm,
that is such an important entity to be spreading, that as many people that want it, they can do it, because I wouldn't want to turn anyone away from something that's so life changing.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. All right, so go check out her links will be in the description. Thank you again. It was so lovely, and everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Kayleen.